Welcome to the Spirit-Centered Business Podcast, where we blend the spiritual with the practical for supernatural results. Now, here is your host, Bralynn Newby.
Hello there. Welcome to the Spirit-Centered Business Show. And do make sure you head on over to spiritcenteredbusiness.com to grab your free business assessment so you can see exactly where you are on your spirit-centered business journey. Now, today I have an amazing, brand spanking new friend, but I can tell she's an amazing friend. Rhonda Sciortino. Did I say that name right? Right? Sciortino.
That's just fine. Yes.
Okay, awesome. And she is she's written so many books. She's started foundations. She is the foster care to millionaire maven. I don't know. Let's put a word to that. I don't know. Whatever you want.
I'll take it. I'll take Maven.
Right. And she is doing amazing things all over the world. And I saw her in a podcast directory of amazing guests. And I said, I need to have this woman on the show. And so we've had one short little call, but otherwise, audience, you're seeing us get together for the first time. So this is really going to be cool. Rhonda, welcome.
Thank you so much, Bralynn, for having me. I'm so excited. I love what you do. The idea of faith-filled people following God into the workplace, into the marketplace, and becoming leaders and becoming successful and setting the tone for how godly business should be done. I love it. I think it's fabulous. I'm so honored to be here with you.
Oh, thank you so much. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your story, and knowing that the audience can always go to rhonda.org. Now, is that the awesomest name ever, audience? Rhonda.org. I mean, let's like share, you know?
Well, I had to do that because unless you're Sicilian, you wouldn't probably know how to spell Sciortino. So
Sciortino. Oh, I love that pronunciation. Much better than mine.
Well, we've been married for 33 years. I've figured out how to say it by now. But yeah, so Rhonda was, I mean, it's rhondasciortino.com, but rhonda.org gets you there and without worrying about it. Yeah.
And I also want to make sure that I do say your name right. Sciortino, not Sciortino.
Well, yeah, I'll answer to any of the above. So that's
I know, I do too. Hey, you is fine. I get Berlin a lot instead of Bralynn, which that's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you guys, to get the full story, you can go to rhonda.org. But Rhonda, why don't you give us just a brief synopsis so we can get into how you blend your spiritual into your business?
Okay. Well, let's see. Let me try to give you the short Reader's Digest version. So I spent the first 16 years of my life in the child welfare system in Southern California. And my mother had left, my father left. I was raised by maternal grandparents, and my grandfather was mentally ill, and my grandmother was an alcoholic and an addict. The little shack where we lived was destroyed by fire when I was about 8 years old. It was not insured, and so we were homeless from June 14th until November of that year. And we sort of lived in the park, and we would dig food out of trash cans and go fishing. If we caught something, we ate that night. If we didn't catch something or find something in the dumpster behind the fast food place, then we didn't eat. So I've been hungry and homeless, and I know how all that feels. Yeah. Fast forward, I emancipated when I was 16 years old. And I was allowed to emancipate. The judge said to me, okay, well, you have to have a job, and you have to have an apartment, you have to have transportation, you have to have a bank account, checking and a savings account. He gave me this long list. And I think he thought he'd never see me again. But I went back to the high school where I attended, and they helped me to find a job interview. And I was hired by a farmer's insurance agent. And I didn't know what insurance was. I did, but whatever he asked me, do you know how to do? Oh yeah, I know how to do that. I had no idea what he was talking about.
Say yes and figure it out later, right?
Yes, and figure it out later. Fake it till you make it. I didn't know all that, but I knew I needed a job because I needed to get out of the abusive situation where I lived. So I get this job in this insurance agency, and this wonderful man, his name was Chuck Wheeler. And I say that everywhere I speak because I hope to one day find Mr. Chuck Wheeler and thank him because he launched a 40-year career in risk management by hiring a very rough 15-year-old kid. And when he started to tell me what insurance was, oh my word, Bralynn, I'm like, wait, what? You you mean when a house burns down, somebody just like pays for you to have a new house? Yeah, that's right. And I said, but wait, like when all your clothes, when everything's destroyed, they buy you all new clothes? Yeah, that's right. And wait a minute. Are you sure they put you up in another house while they're rebuilding your first house? Is that what this is all about? And he's like, yeah, that's what it is. And I was like, oh, I became like an the evangelical street preacher in the front of Staples Center with the board on the front and the Bible and screaming at people. I was like that about insurance, Bralynn. I was making cold calls at night when people are trying to eat dinner, and I'm
That was
saying,
you.
that was me. That was me. Are you properly insured? Because you know what can happen if you're not properly insured. And
God.
I became the #1 telemarketer in the entire United States for farmers insurance when I was 15, if you could believe that. I was crazy, crazy. I didn't want anybody to be homeless because they were not insured. I didn't want anybody to live like I had lived, I wore the same exact outfit that I had on the day the house burned. I wore that little dress all the way into November. Little dime store flip-flops. I was filthy, filthy dirty. No place to take a shower, no place, I mean, the little shack where we lived hadn't had a shower anyway, but you could at least get a bath once a week. No, I was filthy. And it was humiliating. And the way I was treated in school as a result of it, it was just so embarrassing. And I didn't want anybody to experience that.
Right.
So there I was in insurance and graduated from high school in the top 10 of my class, and I had a 4-year scholarship ahead of me, but I turned it down because, well, first of all, if I'm totally transparent and honest, I was scared to death to move out of state and go to a completely different place and be in a big place. I don't like, just made me very nervous to think about a big, scary new place where I didn't know anybody. And the insurance thing was going well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wound up, I was volunteering at a home for abused children, and they asked me, our insurance premiums went up from $12,000 to $64,000. We're going to close the doors of the children's home. Is there anything you could do? And I was like, oh gosh, I don't know, but let me try. So I went back. At this point now, I was full time, and my mentor was the owner of this agency that I worked at that point. And I went back and I said, Fred, they're gonna close the doors of the children's home if we don't help. Come on, you must know people that owe you favors. Come on, we have to do this. And so Mr. Fred Livermore started making calls. The next thing you know, we got their insurance taken care of. And fast forward, I got an envelope on my desk one day, Bralynn, that said, I opened it up and there was a note from the CEO that said, what you did kept the children's home open. And that means that children with their relationships that they've started here can heal. They're not going to be uprooted and moved again. And then there were all these notes and little drawings and poems and all these things that the children had sent me. They had no idea what I had done, but somebody told them this nice lady did something. Write her a note, draw her a picture. And so I had all these things, and that I'm at my desk and I'm looking at that, And I remembered the words from a foster father that I had. I went to stay in a foster home for just a couple of weeks when I was about 7 years old because I had two black eyes. And my
Oh,
grandfather wasn't able to explain away two black eyes at the same time.
wow.
And that foster father said to me, "Young lady, you were put here for a reason, and you better be about finding out what it is." I'm 7. Okay, I don't know the meaning of life yet. I didn't know my purpose, but the lady was a very sweet, nice lady, and the guy was kind of stern. I don't remember him saying anything else. I don't even know their names. I wasn't there very long.
Oh, wow.
I was removed from that home because they took me to church, and my grandparents were atheists.
Oh
And
my
they filed a complaint.
gosh.
It was right after Madeline Murray O'Hare got prayer taken out of the schools. So it was one of those times in our nation's history where it was really wrong to be a Christian.
Wow, I was going to ask you where you were on your faith journey all through this, but that explains it. Oh my gosh.
Well,
Wow.
these people introduced me to Jesus. So when I was placed back into the abusive environment,
Uh-huh.
I prayed to the Jesus guy. Prayed all the time, get me out of here, send me back to those nice people. There was plenty of food at their house. I ate those people out of house and home for a full, 10 to 14 days, however long I was there. And but the prayer wasn't answered. So I was like, okay, well, I don't know about all that. And nevertheless, though, as I sat at my desk the day that the CEO of Hillview Acres Children's Home sent me that envelope about something I had done that was good in the
That made
world.
a difference. Yeah. Yeah.
It made a difference. And I
Mhm.
remembered the words of the foster father saying, "You were put here for a reason. You better be about finding out what it is. It's up to you. You have to figure out why God put you in this life." And it clicked. And it was the intersection of what I knew how to do and what I cared deeply about.
Beautiful.
I wanted to help people who were helping abused kids because I saw what happened at Hillview Acres. They were panicked about their insurance. They didn't know what to do about it. Here what they are, everybody with advanced degrees, more education than I ever would have in my life. Fabulous people, experts at what they did, but they weren't experts in insurance and they didn't have time to become experts, didn't have the desire to become experts in insurance. They just wanted somebody to fix it. Bralynn, I quit my job and I started my own insurance agency designed solely to protect and defend the good people and organizations that care for abused children.
Wow.
And we studied the way kids and caregivers get injured or killed. And we figured out what the triggers were. And we figured out the times of day and the days of the week. And then I brought together child welfare thought leaders. And I said, okay, here's the data. We took all the names and identifiers off. And I said, here's the data. How could this terrible tragedy, the death of a child, how could this have been avoided? And they, with their initials after their names and all this, intelligence and expertise and experience, they figured it out. And then we created risk management materials and we trained childcare workers and social workers all over the United States on how to prevent tragedy of children who already had been abused. That's why they were in the child welfare system. So you see, when I heard about you and your podcast about spirit-led business and integrating your faith and your work, it just resonated with me because that's what I did. I didn't know that's what was happening. I was 27 years old when I quit my job, and all my friends said, "Wait, what? You're going to quit the job that has the paycheck, the health insurance?
Right.
Did you hit your head? Something's wrong with you because no. So you're going to start this business where you have no money. I had no family. I had no safety net. I had no, I mean, I sold my house. I sold my Mercedes. I sold my furniture, Bralynn. I sold my refrigerator. Not well thought out. I'm
Yeah.
not,
Okay. All right.
I'm
Okay.
not
So,
terribly
so
known for
for
logistics.
the audience, that would not be how I would business coach you.
No, right? Right? But remember I had no family. I had
Yeah.
nobody to call and say, "I have this great idea. Here's what I think I'll do." And so
Right.
my friends, they're my age and they're all, getting their doctorates or they're off living their lives and they're doing what they're doing. And so here's what I did. I followed the leading of the Holy Spirit with reckless abandon.
Mm.
And I got the reckless abandon part. I might have taken that just a little too far when I sold the fridge. But it was the CEO of Hillview Acres Children's Home who said, "Why don't you start your own insurance agency?" Because the agency I was in, Mr. Livermore retired. And the new owners didn't want to insure nonprofit organizations. And so when I helped Hillview Acres, I started to get calls from people running child welfare organizations all over the United States. "I heard what you did. Could you do that for us? The insurance market was going hard, and it was going hard all over the United States. So everybody in child welfare was experiencing this. So I'm getting these calls, and the owners of the insurance agency where I worked were like, "No, this is not. No, we don't want you to do." I would write the business, I get called in. I write another account, I get called in. I'm in trouble 4 times a week. And so here's my mentor, the CEO of Hillview Acres Children's Home, Corky Kinsvater, and he said, "What? I don't understand. Why don't you open your own agency?" I was like, "Oh, yeah. Why don't I?" Well, here's the long reason why I shouldn't. I never run a business. I didn't know how to do the books. I didn't know how to get insurance company appointments. I didn't know anything about marketing. I didn't, you could go
Yeah.
on and on and
Sure.
on with all that I didn't know. And it turns out, Bralynn, I've never known how to do any of the things that I wound up doing.
You know what? A lot of us are in that same boat. We're kind of like self-taught. We've got to just say yes and figure it out, like we said before.
That's
So
exactly it.
good. I'm so glad that you just stuck with it and you had that conviction in your heart of your purpose and your destiny. That's beautiful.
I did. I mean, I thought it was going to be a lifelong thing. And it turned out not. It turned out that that was one life assignment of
Hmm.
my purpose. And I have, I'm doing a completely different thing now. I sold my insurance brokerage. I sold my national insurance program administrator company. And I wrote my first book, and my first book turned into my 15th book. And so, yeah, it's crazy.
And just refresh my memory. I'm looking at your website here. Which book was your first one?
The very first book was called From Foster Care to Millionaire.
Yeah.
And it
Okay.
wasn't, I didn't mean to write a book. Wasn't intending, I never thought I would write a book. In fact, the time I wanted to write a book, when I was up to my armpits and running these two insurance organizations,
Mhm.
I mine was the first insurance agency that specialized solely in child welfare. And so a competitor had risen up, and he had tremendous financial backing. So he could do all this amazing marketing. I couldn't afford to do all that. And so he paid a ghostwriter to write a book. And he used his book to market to my clients.
Oh, wow.
And so I had clients calling me, telling me about, oh, did you hear about Anthony's book? Poor Anthony came from a working class family, had to work so hard, he had to buy his own soccer uniform or whatever. Like they're going on, and I'm thinking, oh my word, none of these people knew
Wow.
the depth of my experiences
Right.
in my childhood because I didn't want to trade on that. I don't want pity. I there's an old Italian saying, I can't say it in Italian, but it basically translates to better for someone to envy you than pity you.
Oh,
And so I didn't want pity, so I didn't want to go on and on about my story. But when he wrote that book and my clients were calling me, telling me about the book, I thought, oh, well, I'm going to write a book. Berlin, I got maybe a page and a half in, and I had nothing else to say. I was completely done. So much for writing a book, right? But later on, a friend of mine had a foster daughter, 17-year-old girl, making bad decisions at about 100 miles an hour. And my friend said, would you talk to her? And I said, no, I'm not going to talk to her. She won't listen to me, but I will write to her because she can scrunch it up and throw it in the corner, but maybe she'll go pick it up,
mm.
unfold it, and read. And I started writing to Chantel. And I had a lot to say. And it took me a long time to get this all written out. And I printed up a few copies. I sent it to friends who were social workers and psychologists, mental health professionals, just to make sure that I didn't say anything that could be cause more harm than good.
Yeah.
And one of them sent it to Barnes and Noble, to the buyer in New York City. And that person contacted me and said, okay, it's obvious that you don't know anything about designing a book cover or layout or whatever. And I thought, this is a joke, right? One of my friends is playing with me, right? No, it really was the buyer from Barnes and Noble. And she
Wow.
said, if you'll change the cover and change the title and change the layout and do this and that. And I'm like, I'm writing as fast as I can because I thought, this is the best advice. I can't pay for this advice. And I did everything she said to do, and I made some changes to the book to where it wasn't just, written to one 17-year-old girl, so broadened it a little bit. And that is succeed because of what you've been through.
Mhm.
And that lady did follow through, and she got me in every Barnes and Noble in the United States. And then the Today Show called. And that's how I wound up on the Today Show, was because of that book. And it all goes back to writing a letter to that 17-year-old girl who now is an amazing woman of God, awesome wife and mother, and very active in her church and with her. She's living her faith, and I'm a big believer in, you just follow the leading of the Holy Spirit, and God will literally, if you will pray and then really listen
Mhm.
and then act on the prompts that you get. I don't hear a booming voice from heaven, although it would be so much easier if that's the way it worked.
Right. And I've told him about that several times, Lord, haven't
Right? Or an email with bullet points.
Right.
Prioritize, please. Thank you. But no, it's usually not what happens with me anyway. But if we'll just pray, listen, act, repeat that every single day, at least for me, I've walked right straight, like stumbled into God's perfect plans.
Mhm. Yep, exactly. That is so good. And obviously he's had his hand on your life and given you favor along the way and all of that. That is so good. So at what point did you start becoming really close with the Lord again or for
Ah,
the first time?
yeah. Okay. So when I was 14, uh, my there was a young girl on my first day of high school who swiveled around in her chair and said, "Hi, I'm Janet. What's your name?" And she did it with everybody.
Oh.
But that's the first time, Berlin. I mean, think about how I looked. I was dirty. I wore the same clothes every day. There was no shower in the place where we lived. I didn't realize that people didn't make eye contact with me until someone did. And that 14-year-old girl swiveled around, said, "Hi, I'm Janet. What's your name?" And I said, "Rhonda." And she said, "Okay, well, I'm going to have lunch in the quad. You want to come with me? Or, why don't you meet me here?" Whatever. Like, she treated me exactly like she treated everyone else. And we were friends until the day she passed away. And that 14-year-old girl gave me dignity and changed me. Well, she went to church
Mm.
and she invited me to come to church. And I didn't know there were 142 million different kinds of Christian churches.
Right?
So it was Missouri Synod Lutheran Church that she went
Oh,
to. And I said, "Oh, I want to do this. This is where I want to be." And then they wouldn't baptize me because you had to go to class for a whole year. So for a whole year, I hitchhiked every Wednesday night and got a ride to that church, and I took the class. And on July 4th of 1976, I was baptized and confirmed into the Lutheran Church. And let's see, I answered an altar call in a Baptist church. And at some point in time, I realized, oh, Jesus was Jewish. Oh, I need to go study at the temple. So I went to a Jewish temple and I studied under that rabbi for a little bit to try to like figure that connection out. Uh, and I've studied lots and lots of different denominations since that, denominational platforms since that.
mhm, mhm.
And so I would say that I'm pretty ecumenical. Wherever Jesus is Lord, I'm good.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's been a wild and crazy journey, faith journey for me.
Wow. That is so good. Oh my gosh. So, I just want to let's just kind of like wrap up section one or segment one, and then we'll go into segment two. But I want to let people know how they can get your books, especially the 30 Days to Love and the 30 Days to Happiness. Should they
Oh,
just go to your website at rhonda.org, the best website ever?
well, yeah, all of my books are on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, so wherever anybody is comfortable. But if whoever goes to rhonda.org and purchases, you can get it personally inscribed, and all the profit goes to Successful Survivors Foundation, which is a nonprofit educational foundation to help victims of trauma, especially childhood trauma, to mine the lessons out of our hardest experiences, because those are exactly the lessons that help us to create personal and professional success.
Yes, I know, I love that. I've always said make your mess your message. And
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. So I loved that the succeed through what you've been through, or by
Yep.
what you've what is how is it?
Because
Because of
because
what you've
of
been
what
through.
you've been
Yes.
through.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a great title, and that does look like a really good read. I haven't read it yet. I haven't read any of the books yet, but I'm going to. There's
Well,
also ebooks on there too for
oh
those of you
yes.
who like those, right?
Yes, they're print ebooks, and I'm in the process of having every single one of them narrated into audiobooks.
Nice, nice. And you also have your podcast, Find Your Purpose Now podcast,
Yes,
right?
indeed. Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. And that's yeah, findyourpurposenow.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
Right, exactly. And I'm looking forward to coming on there, but not until
Yes.
my book is done, which my audience already knows. They kind of know the pain of my journey of writing this book, but it's coming, you guys. It really is coming. I think I'm in the last curve. I'm not quite in the home stretch, but I'm in that last curve. You know how it
There
goes.
you
And then
go. I'll be ready when you are.
awesome. Okay, so again, you guys, do support Rhonda.org. Go over to get her books. And there's also, there was a pop-up that came up about the 30 days to love. Did you have like a challenge or something, or a
Ah,
course?
yes,
Okay.
I'm in the process of creating an online course
Okay.
around 30 days to love, 30 days to happiness, um, 29 survival tips for
Mm,
people who are living in survival mode. There
right.
are many, many, many online courses that are just, these are the workshops that I've done for many, many
Right.
years. And I realized I can reach so many more people by creating online self-paced micro learning courses.
Right.
So I'm creating those because just the technology that exists right now levels the playing field. There's never been another time in human history where basically almost anybody from anywhere can start a business and offer their services and help people in places where they'll never physically go. And
Mm,
I'm just at a place in my life where, traveling every week and 10, 100,000 miles a year on planes. I'm not trying to have that anymore. So
right.
online courses.
Yep. Exactly. All right. Well, thank you again. This has been great. There is one last thing that I want to leave as a cliffhanger for the people so that they come back next week to get the second one is you're going to talk about why you have a sense of urgency in the world. Right.
Oh, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And
There's
why I
a
think it's important for all of us
right,
to have that
right,
sense of urgency.
right. So there's a sense of urgency for you guys to come back next week to see part two. Okay. Until then, you guys, stay spirit centered. Peace out.
Hey there, SCB peeps. I want to give a huge shout out and deep appreciation and thanks to Candace Benton. She has become a super sponsor for the Spirit Centered Business Show. So I would appreciate you helping me in sending blessings and abundance back to her. Thank you so much, Candace, and you are well loved.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Centered Business with Bralynn Newby. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. The next stage of doing business by being spirit centered is coming together in collaboration, working with spiritual principles, and knowing our destiny. Join our tribe at spiritcenteredbusiness.com, and we'll catch you on the next broadcast. Peace out.